Okay, everybody, have your attention real quick. We're doing the boost. It says for the boost page that Chris and I get a boost by drinking 72 Red Bulls and then shotgunning one. I don't.
What's it? Magnesium carbonate, sodium citrate, taurine, citric acid, glucose.
5 hours per day to teach you the best practice business systems and moves that you can use. Because
I realized that she was very wise. I was just too ignorant to understand what she was getting at. But fortunately, Christy thought she could work with something that had too many ideas on the page, so it all worked out. So that was a very memorable rejection that I got. But there were others which I blocked out.
Well, you could kind of track, with your podcast and my podcast, we can kind of track how many people download our podcast. And as we've moved into the top, 5 consistently on the business section, there's a lady. Have you ever met Efat Jindal with Foundry Media? Have you ever met her?
I don't believe so.
Her company, Foundry Media, represented like Elon Musk's book, and there's a lot of books in the top 10.
Oh, sure, I know Foundry Media.
And the thing is, I get rejected by Efat about every 6 months to be my agent, and so recently, I actually made cars. Chuck, you saw
very
this morning.
recently.
I made this
Very
morning.
recently.
I made all of our employees, Gretchen. I made all of our employees park their cars in the shape of her name.
Yep.
And I've sent that to her, and I'm just going to continue.
We drone videoed it from.
I can't tell you, and for anybody out there, I've had over 100 rejections. I've written a lot of books, and you know how it is when you self-publish. You go to a conference, people will want to buy 1,000 books. You make good money, but to get a good literary agent, there's a rejection there. And so if you're out there, and you want to write a book, you're gonna get rejected. It's just gonna happen. But Chuck, hopefully the cars in the shape of Efat's name, YFAT, will get her winner over this time.
We did it.
That you get A++ for originality. That is great.
Oh, we fully drone video over it and everything. I'll send you a link when we hop.
believe in you. And they have a lot of time on their hands. They started from the bottom, now they're here. It's the Thrivetime show.
Today.
Oh
You'll
gosh,
enjoy it.
Please do.
I will do it. Now, Gretchen, I want to ask you this because your first book that you wrote, Power, Money, Fame, Sex, A User's Guide, that particular book, if you've ever read any of your books, if you're out there listening, if you haven't read one of our books, listen, if you just want to say, I like your podcast, what should I do? Buy one of our books. I don't care what book you buy. Buy a Gretchen Rubin book today. Buy the book.
So nice.
I'm serious. You got to buy a book. You got to do it. Buy one of her books, and you're going to see a woman. I mean this in a kind way, not a backhanded compliment. You maniacally obsess and research about a subject to the point that I think anybody out there would have stopped halfway through or a tenth of the way through. And then it's almost like when you read your book, it's like, I now know everything about this subject, and I've summarized it for you. I mean, it's so easy to read, but you've done so much research. So I just want to ask you, I mean,
you're so nice to say that. That's like one of the nicest things anybody's ever said.
No, it's serious. I feel like it's a gift. It's like you've read everything there is to know about John F. Kennedy or Winston Churchill, and here it is for you in obscure books. So I want to ask you, what made you first want to write Power, Money, Fame, Sex, A User's Guide? It's an incredible book. What made you first want to read that book? Or write that book, research the book?
Well, like I said, I just had this moment where it hit me, and it was like a linked idea in my mind. It was like Power, Money, Fame, Sex. And I remember I was at a cocktail party in D.C., and for some reason Walter Isaacson was there, who was like way, way, way more important than I was. But somehow I got...
The former U.S. Small Business Administration's Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark, and the entrepreneur trapped inside an optometrist's body.
Talking to Walter Isaacson, and I was like, I'm thinking about writing this book, Power, Money, Fame, Sex. And he goes, nope, you can only have 3. Red, white, and blue, you can only have 3. And I'm like, Power, Money, Fame, Sex. Which one would you leave out? There's 4.
Can I interrupt you just
drop one.
I have to interrupt you just for 1 second. I'm so sorry to interrupt somebody who's in the Oprah Top 100 here. Okay, Walter Isaacson, for anybody out there who doesn't know, he is one of the best authors of our generation, and he has been the guy behind books that it's like Steve Jobs, 2011. If you've ever, it's unbelievably researched. Leonardo da Vinci, 2017. So when Gretchen throws out Walter Isaacson, I just want to make sure everybody understands Walter Isaacson is a big deal. I think you're probably a bigger deal, but he's a big deal. Back to you. I'm so sorry. Just want to make sure I get a little context.
No, he was an incredibly big deal, and I was like so scared to talk to him. I was like this little, I was like, that was when I was still clerking. Like I was just like, this is the book that I wanted to write. So I was incredibly excited to be talking to him. So then it was like, oh my gosh, like Walter Isaac's telling me to drop one, but I'm like, there isn't one to drop. I have to have a 4.
Right.
So it was really like this idea that just hit me, and I wanted to figure out how they fit together. I wanted to understand, and I'm always a person who loves like weird formats of a book. Like I like things that are told in an unusual way. My earlier books all did that. My later books have been much more traditional narrative because I find that that's a better way to reach people actually. But and I can do unconventional things like on my blog now. Like if I want to make a list instead of writing paragraphs, I can do it on my blog. So
Dr. Robert Zillner. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million.
get it out of my system that way. But I love the book. If anybody remembers a book called The Preppy Handbook, which is this book in the 80s that was written like a guide about like how to dress like a preppy person. And it was kind of part social criticism and part like actual how-to guide because it was all very true and accurate, and that was part of what made it fun. But then it was also kind of a critique of the whole idea of what it was to be preppy or to be waspy. And this book just enthralled me. I just thought it was so brilliant and it was so funny. And so I was really trying to, when I was thinking of Power, Money, Fame, Sex, I was very much channeling that kind of framework where it was like, if you want to tell people how to use power, like how could I do it in a way that would seem kind of like a joke, but also kind of not like a joke? Like, I don't know if anybody in your audience who like works in Washington, D.C., one funny thing about Washington, D.C. is people have flags. If you go into like a big person's office, they have a flag in their office. And there's this whole thing about, how many flags do you have? What are your flags? Do you have a flag? Do you not have a flag?
Right.
And it's just like, what's up with the flags? Like we're in a government building. Like you can just assume there's a flag in the back of everyone's head. But anyway, so it's full of like little funny things like that. And so that was a really fun book to write. Oh my gosh. It was like the opposite of the Happiness Project. It was really good preparation for the Happiness Project.
Well, here's the thing. You obsess about ideas, and I've been obsessing recently about this concept of the hypothesis. Hypothesis. It's a figure of speech where Donald Trump always says things, and he'll say, "I'm not going to say this, but some people have said."
Dollar businesses.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
This. So I'm gonna practice on our listeners out there. I'm not gonna say you're a bad person if you don't buy a Gretchen Rubin book right now. But I'm saying some people have said.
There you go.
Some people have said. Now I wouldn't go as far as to say.
Never. No.
I would never. I've gone on record of saying, but you would. Some could say. So you got to go check out one of her books.
Some could say that
That's
some have
very
said.
funny.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, Gretchen, you've written books with incredible research about JFK. Incredible books about Winston Churchill. Can you, JFK, Winston Churchill, why did you decide to deep dive into their lives? Because they're both it seemed like, Winston Churchill was great at everything. It was like he lived 500 lives. It was crazy. Like he lived dozens of lives simultaneously, hundreds of lives. It was like, it didn't even make sense. And JFK was a very complicated human, a lot of yin and a yang there. Can you talk to us about those 2 books and what made you want to deep dive into their very complicated lives?
Well, I think you put your finger right on what drew me to them as subjects, which is really when I think about all my books, what I'm really interested in at the fundamental level is human nature. I'm fascinated by human nature. Why are we the way we are? How can we change if we want to change? Like, what makes somebody the person they are and make the decisions that they make? And what I love about Churchill and Kennedy, as you point out, for both of them, they're larger than life. These are exaggerated figures. Like, everything in human nature is like blown up to just a gigantic proportion, especially, and there's so much evidence, like there's so much research, and like, especially Churchill, like.
Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Started from the bottom, now we're at the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks. I break down the.
There's just volumes and volumes and volumes of what he said and what he did and what he wrote and what he thought and interviews and observations. And Kennedy, as short as a life as he lived, oh my gosh, like I'm like, how did the guy do anything but have his picture taken? Because there's like so many pictures of the guy.
Right.
And, and also he has tremendous, like, people writing about him and accounts and his own books and his own writing and his speeches and government documents. But they are these very complicated figures. And I think it's just fascinating to study them because a lot of times you see in them more clearly things that many people have, but just not to the same elevated degree. So it's harder to see. But with these people who are so kind of well documented and so clearly outlined, it's easier to see human nature at work.
When you researched John F. Kennedy, he was such a complicated person. And for anybody out there who hasn't read the book yet, can you tee up why somebody would want to read your book about John F. Kennedy? Because I found it to be very fascinating. And again, you read, and I don't mean this in a backhand compliment, you read some weird stuff. I mean, you read some obscure things. You're going to the library. You're the kind of person where like, time out, Gretchen, we need to come out of the library. Come on out. You just keep deep
read
diving.
A lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, so why would anybody want to read your book about John F. Kennedy?
Well, here's the thing about my books, and I did not want this to be true, but I found it to be true. I wrote my books thinking my books are like the starter book. If you don't know anything about Winston Churchill, if you don't know anything about Kennedy, my book is going to be the book that's going to convince you.
Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC upon your...
You want to go read a ton of biographies and histories because you're going to get so intrigued because my book is going to show you how fascinating this character is. What I've learned, because you only know your audience when it's too late, when the book is already out, is that actually the people who like my approach, who like my book, are the people who already know a lot about these characters, who really are very, very knowledgeable. Because what I do in the books, it's called 40 Ways to Look at Winston Churchill and 40 Ways to Look at JFK, is in 40 ways I look at them through different perspectives. So it's not a straight narrative that, goes from birth to death or goes from the Blitz. And then does flashbacks or something like that. This is so in each book, the first chapter is like the heroic version, and it's completely factually accurate. Everything's factually accurate. It's just like if you were going to give the best possible account, this is what you would say, all true. And then the second chapter is like if you wanted to paint the worst possible picture, again, completely factually accurate. Nothing in there is unfair or not true.
You're just an example. What would be something in your chapter or in your book where you go, JFK? If you wanted to paint the worst possible picture possible of John F. Kennedy, because that's a controversial idea, what would be where you'd say this guy, he could be the worst because, and he could be the best because? I'd love to get your take on that because this is very intriguing.
He's shallow. He's a philanderer. He's a daddy's boy. He's manipulative. He's not all he's cracked up to be. He's constantly.
Can you please explain the word philanderer? When you say philanderer or manipulative, can you kind of give us just a little detail? Because someone
he cheated like crazy. I mean, by today's standards.
Radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
It's astonishing to think.
Oh boy.
The mischief that he got up to, which it's extraordinary. On the other hand, he inspired a nation. He lives in memory the way. My whole book really is like, what does it mean to live in memory? What does it mean? What does it mean? He represented an ideal to people that's almost impossible to do, but somehow he embodied this idea. And he was able to speak truth in a way that resonated with people in a way that we still can quote him and hear his voice in our ears. Like he stood for something. And in a way, he didn't live up to the ideal that he presented, but he was able to somehow present it. And I think that's really extraordinary. And to try to understand why and how at that time what he did was he was able to do that is really hard to do. Because I think so many people try to step forward and articulate an ideal, but they don't really get it. It doesn't really resonate, or they're like, yeah, you just are making speeches, or like, oh, whatever. But then somehow some people are able to say it in a way that everybody hears it and is moved and is changed, and that he was able to do. So he had many, many flaws and limitations, but then he also achieved greatness in his own way.
Winston Churchill.
Same thing with Churchill. Yeah.
Yes, it was a Churchill. Can you just kind of tease us about, because there's somebody out there, they're just on the verge, Chuck. People, they say, you know what, I'm going to spend $19 on rando purchases at Starbucks today. I don't know whether I can spend $19 with Gretchen Rubin. I have to have some traction here.
Orange mocha frappuccino.
So,
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now
all right, Thrive Nation, welcome back to the conversation. It is the Thrivetime Show. Prime Minister Winston Churchill, what would be like the best and the worst? What kind of stuff can we find?
Oh, I
in this
mean,
book?
he held every important office. He was part of every important event during his lifetime. He was completely dedicated to his country. He was a brilliant writer as well as a brilliant statesman. He had a vision that, in a way, he led the entire West. I mean, you read what he said, and again, the thing that I really learned as a writer from Churchill is he could be grandiloquent, and he would use these words and these super fancy Latin things, and he would talk about, and then when he needed to hammer it home, we shall go on to the end. Give us the tools, and we will finish the job. He would bring it right down to a single syllable. He knew how to communicate to people. And again, and then people sometimes write to me and they're like, oh, but he's so tremendously flawed. And they recite to me all the evidence that I put in chapter 2 of my own book. I'm like, I wrote that. Yes, I get the good and I get the bad, and I think, so I think it's fascinating. It's also I have to say, even though it sounds very boring, my books are also really about the nature of biography, which is, you believe that you understand a version of a person because somebody's told you that version, but there are choices that are being made, and there's evidence that is not known. Like a lot of times biographers will talk about motivation. Well, unless somebody tells you their motivation, you don't know what it is, and they could be lying, or they could even be lying to themselves. We don't really know why people do the things they do, and biographers are incredibly reckless.
On your radio and on today's show. This show might be short if our next guest does not pick up the phone. Her name is Gretchen Rubin. She's a New York Times best-selling author. She is one of Oprah's...
About assuming that they understand why people do what they do. And we know in life, a lot of times people do things for the weirdest reasons. Like, you don't know why people do what they do. And so, anyway, it's about the problem of trying to tell someone else's story, a final version of someone's story. A funny thing that happened with the Churchill book is one of the things I write about is how he had pink silk underwear.
What?
Which is just not what you would think about Churchill. And so I got this very indignant letter from some kind of former military person in the UK scolding me for coming up with such a preposterous thing. And I'm like, by the way, look in the memoir from Churchill's own daughter, Mary. She's the one who writes about it at great length. So again, you might be like, who's the last person on earth who would wear pale pink silk underwear? Winston Churchill? Well, he did. And there's his daughter explaining why. And so, that's what fascinates me about biography is the unexpected and like how we can't really tell a final version of someone's story.
Well,
I think that's why people who know a lot about a character are interested in mine, because it's like, you could look at it this way, or you could look at it this way, or you could look at it this other way. And they like that because they already know a lot.
Well, let me tell you my secret motivation for having you on the show today. I personally am just selfishly excited about your books. And I love the process with which you write books. And I feel like if there was a female version of me, it would be you. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah.
I obsess about topics. And my partner and I, that's how we've been able to build these 13 multi-million-dollar companies that people know us for, is because we just obsess about like dog training or haircuts for not forever, for about 2 years. And then we build a brand and then we scale it. And so that's why I know what you ate.
I mean, what is this stuff?
Okay. Oh. No, that's filthy. That's gross. I just took are you drinking that? Yeah.
Favorite people. Oprah has interviewed her, and Chuck, it always gets a little bit nerve-wracking.
Well, especially the bigger the name is, like the bigger the guest.
She had breakfast today, and I'm just going to ask you, for the listeners out there who don't know, what did you eat for breakfast today?
Scrambled eggs, which I'm sure you knew.
Right, because you eat the same thing every day. And I know this because I'm not healthy. I obsess about one thing, and it's Gretchen Rubin. What makes her tick? So I want to ask you, Gretchen, and I already know the answer, but I just want to, for the listeners out there, because this is, it's cathartic for me because I love your process. I just love the way you do life. It's awesome. When you're writing a book, what percentage of your day is spent taking notes? It's hard to say because it ebbs and flows, like depending on
like taking notes. It's like sometimes I read a book and like I'm going to take hours and hours of notes because the book is so full of information. And then sometimes I read a book and maybe there's like one thing that I would write down. But you're right. That's a big part of my work process, and it's actually takes a lot of time is note taking. So I read a lot because I love to read, but then a lot of times, especially if I'm doing research for a book,
right?
So I'm reading about something specific. There might be just hours of note taking, because that's how I kind of start coming to my own conclusions. Is I'll take notes, and that's how I kind of learn it, and then I start having questions and thinking like, well, maybe these two things are associated, or so. Yeah, and then it's nice because then when I'm actually starting to write a book, I already have like a bunch of stuff already written because I've already started to kind of digest it. I'm never starting from like total zero.
Eric Chupp, we're in the Man Cave Studios. Now, Gretchen, I know that you live in a very populous area. You live in caller?
I think we should.
Okay, let's go. I'm gonna do it. Here we go.
Okay.
Chupp, what if she doesn't pick up?
It's a possibility.
Chupp, if somebody wants to pick up the call, they'll pick York. I live at what I call Camp Clark and Chicken Palace, which if you're ever looking for a vacation destination, it's like 17 acres of woods and trees. We live behind a wall. We have the silky chickens.
Do you get some new ones? I see some new chickens out there.
I do. I bought 4 new chickens here this week. Gretchen, that's a guilty pleasure. I buy 4 chickens every time I can.
Wow.
And so I kind of we live the opposite in terms of the actual place that we live. But Chupp, you've seen the books there in the studio there.
Yeah.
And do I not just destroy books with notes?
With notes, with coffee stand, with water dropped in the bathroom. Like, you would not believe what some of these books look like. They've definitely been gone through over and over again.
So I heard that you take notes like this.
But don't you find, Clay, that it helps you later, like if you have to go back, because you can find just what you're looking for because you've marked it up? Like,
right.
Some people feel like it's somehow heretical to mark up a book, and I'm like, no, that's a way to love a book. That's a way to appreciate a book, is to mark it up.
It's a way to love a book.
It's a way to love a book. Now, okay, so I want to ask you this now. So as far as with your books, do you take notes in the margin? Do you put tabs on them? What's your move for taking those notes?
He's so excited.
So a lot of times I read library books. And so library books, I use a sticky note, and then I will put the sticky note in. And if I need to write a note to myself about like why something's important, I'll write it on the sticky note so I can not, deface a library book. If it's a book that is mine, then I dog-ear it and write all over the
That's
margin.
right.
That's right.
Right. Now, the reason why you're reading the library books, I want to make sure the listeners understand this. You're reading some obscure stuff. I mean, technically speaking, Gretchen, you're reading some obscure crap. I mean, stuff that nobody else is going to read, right? I mean, do you not read it up on the first ring?
It doesn't ring 4 or 5 times. There she is.
Hello?
Gretchen, how are you? This is Clay. Books that nobody else is checking out. I mean, you check out the book and they're like, really? Is that the book you want? I mean, you're reading some stuff that's not in print. You're not reading best-selling books. I mean, you really go deep.
I do, and I do love the library for that, and I love that you can get things online that are like very, very obscure, because I do, and then I do a lot of things to like, if a book is recommended by a book that I like, I will often read that book just because I'm like, well, it was important enough to come up in this other book. So sometimes I go through these book chains, or I don't even know, like I look at my library list, I'm like, I have no idea where I heard about this book, but I'll give it a shot. That's another thing I love about library books is you can be very reckless. You just return it. I'm like, I'll just stick it in my bag. And if I don't like it after 5 pages, I'll just return it. Whereas if you buy it, you feel like you got to really kind of think about that for a minute. But I love reading weird stuff. I love like finding some weird book that nobody's or like a book that's a classic but that nobody reads. Like I just read Florence Nightingale's Notes on Nursing. It's like an incredibly important book in like the history of the world, but nobody reads it anymore. So I was like, what did Florence Nightingale actually write? And that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. This is an awesome interview, Gretchen. You're a wealth of information. I wanted to ask you. You said that you spend 3 hours a day or something like that at the library. Is that right?
If I'm doing like original writing, like I'm not always in that cycle in my process because like right now I have a book coming out in March, so the book's done. I'm just like writing the back copy and all that stuff, looking at the first past pages. But when I'm actually writing an original book for the first time, then I spend 3 hours. Hey, Clay, how are you?
Well, you are an answer to prayer. I have read your stuff. I love what you do. I love your maniacal obsession in the research. And so I am super excited. I've been praying to have you.
Library every day. Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you about that. What does that look like? So you sit down, walk us through, you open up the laptop. Is it a mad dash, or are you just getting all the ideas
Real quick,
out?
let me cue up the music. Gretchen, I know this is inappropriate, but I've installed, without you knowing, a microphone in your cranium. And so when you go to the library, this is what she hears right away. She gets in. Here she goes. This is Gretchen.
Yeah, good. I like it.
In the library. So when you're in the library, Gretchen, what are you thinking?
Walk us through that.
Well, I like to go to a desk. In my library, there are desks throughout the stack. And so I go to a desk that's all surrounded by books, but there's nobody around. It's in a corner. And I have a laptop and a little mouse. So I plug in my mouse and I will sit down. And I'm never starting from zero because I have all these notes. So usually I have a place. I will say start here every time I'm done so that I remember where to start. And I will go back a couple paragraphs and get myself back in my mindset, and then I'll start writing again.
Very cool.
Are you wearing headphones?
No.
So you're just taking
and
the
I
aura.
don't check the internet there.
You're taking the aura.
Just soaking it all in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Awesome.
the questions have been answered. This is huge. Now, you are somebody who reads these books. You love to read books, and I recently heard that you loved the book Pattern Language by Christopher Alexander. So Chup, please share with Gretchen, how does the decor of our office? Gretchen, we have about a 20,000 square foot office.
Oh, yeah.
In Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Wow.
There's hundreds of employees, and so I have a big old in the show. So hopefully there was some divine intervention that made that happen.
Excellent. I'm so happy to have the chance to talk to you. So this is great.
All right, Thrive. At some point, you got to fly to Tulsa. I want to shake your hand and apologize for not being a better interviewer. But we have about a 20,000 square foot facility. And Chubb, how would you describe the patina or the decor or the ambiance of our office so she can mentally picture it?
You stole my word. I was going to say lots of patina, lots of swag. Old barn wood on the walls everywhere. Positive quotes, big wins from big figures in the business world, and just positive encouragement. Edison bulbs, always overhead music going, the rich smell of pinion wood burning somewhere throughout. So very, very swagalicious. That's how I would describe it.
I'm very intentional about my ambiance and decor. And so when I heard this book, Pattern Language, you were talking about it on a couple different podcasts, I immediately am like, I got to get this book. And it is awesome. It's like the Holy Grail. Talk to us about Pattern Language.
So Pattern Language is this very kind of unconventional book, and it looks at patterns in kind of built environments that people find appealing. So it's not about like, this is the Baroque style, or your office desk should be X feet wide. It's things like child cave, staircase as stage, terrace overlooking life, waist-high shelf. It's about these patterns about what makes people feel good in an environment. And what happens to me, and maybe you had the same experience, is that when you read it, you start understanding why some places feel more comfortable and appealing than others. Like one of the things he says is ceilings at different heights. People tend to feel more comfortable in a place that has ceiling at different heights. And if you walk into an office and you look and the ceiling is all the same height, you realize it feels like a flatter.
And welcome back to the Thrivetime show on your radio and podcast download. And I can honestly say that on today's show, I am the most excited that I've ever been thus far to interview a guest.
Environment than if there's an area where it kind of goes up. Or if you go into a restaurant and you see, or like you walk into someone's home and the hallway is slightly higher or even lower than the rest, it just feels more interesting. Or like cascade of roofs. You can look at a Japanese temple and a 17th century farmhouse and a 1970s house in California, and you'll see, wow, if I see a cascade of roofs, I just feel like that's a more appealing design to me. So I loved it because it gave me a vocabulary for the things that appealed to me versus places that seemed cold to me.
I wish you could come. I wish you could come to Tulsa and see how this book has impacted me. I wish you could see because
what have you done? What have you done?
Well, our men's grooming lounge. It's called Elephant in the Room. If you get a chance to check it out today, it's called eitrlounge.com. And my partner and I, we have there's 400 locations of OxyFresh. It's our carpet cleaning franchise. It's the world's greenest carpet cleaning company. So we use 1/10 of the water of anybody else in the world. It's very organic, And so our second business is called Elephant in the Room. and we did the whole different ceiling heights. And it's amazing how many people walk in and go, wow, I love that cloud, or what do you call that thing? It's just neat, and it's just amazing how these little moves can really impact. And you actually went as far as to, now if I'm wrong, you say, Clay, you are the wrongest man ever. But do you not live in like a former water tower? Is it Mike correct here?
In my office is a former water tower.
Can you talk to us about the mojo and the energy? Today's guest is the New York Times best-selling author of The 4 Tendencies, Better Than Before, and The Happiness Project. Having you feel when you walk into the Gretchen's palace of incredible best-selling books. I mean, when you walk in there, I mean, do you not hear the Rocky theme every day? I mean, it's got to be awesome.
The Water Tower of Power.
Yeah.
Well, I like that, the Tower of Power. I got to use that. Well, if you have a 20,000 square foot office, I have like the opposite of that. It's teeny, teeny, teeny. It's at the top of my building. I live in New York City, and a lot of times in New York City, they have water towers, and that's to create pressure for showers and things like that. For whatever reason, before we moved in, they had taken our water tower out, and the person who lived in our apartment before us had asked if she could build like a storage unit on the roof where it had been, and they gave her permission to do that, or she paid or whatever. So she built this little room. So when we moved into the apartment, I thought, oh my gosh, this is great. I could turn it into my office, because it had 3 windows in it, and it had heat. So I put it in an air conditioner, and it's just this little tiny office, but it's like my space capsule. You know, it's like plenty big for me. And it's kind of nice because it's pretty easy to sort of keep it organized and clean, because it's very, very small. And like if it gets cold, it's easy to heat with the space heater, because it's just tiny. But it's separate from the rest of my apartment, which kind of psychologically I like. I'm on the roof of the building.
I love it.
So
gosh, I want to go to your water tower. I want to see it. I want to ask you what it costs. But I would say for me, my office cost me $27,000 a month for 20,000 square feet. You know, there's a lot of employees there.
Holy smokes.
I don't know what yours costs, but in Manhattan, I mean, it's expensive.
What's this part of my apartment?
Sold over 3 million copies of her books. She has developed a massive following and is now the host of the top-ranked and award-winning weekly podcast, Happier with Gretchen.
Considered part of my apartment, so it's just part of the cost of my apartment.
Even better.
So does he work there too? Do you work there with him?
No.
That was quick. No.
So I want to get into your office in a non-weird way. You go there, and you have 3 monitors. And if you've changed since then, I apologize for misquoting you. But I believe you have 3 monitors. I've kind of visualized it. You have 3 monitors. Can you talk to me about why you have the 3 monitors and how that helps you?
So I have like a guy who's my IT person, you know, who helps me with my computers and my backups and my phone and all this stuff. And I worked with him for a long time, so he knows my work style very well. And this was years ago, and he said to me, I think you should get a second monitor. And I was like, no, because I don't like to multitask. I don't want to get distracted. I don't want 2 monitors. But then I read an article that said that for information workers, which is what I am, that if they had a second monitor, they actually saw like a very noticeable increase in productivity, that it wasn't something that was a distraction, but that it actually like really helped you save time. So I called up my guy, Charles, and I was like, okay, Charles, you're right. I'm going to try a second monitor. Literally, I'd had the second monitor for one day when I was like, okay, come back, please. I need a third monitor, because it's so dramatically affected my productivity. Because I can have like my email up and like if I'm working on a document but I need to consult an email, they're both up. Or if I need to look at something online, that's easy to do. I can move between among documents. I tend to have like a lot, like note taking. Like I might be working on a draft, but I also need to have my notes open, and so now I can have them both open simultaneously. So it saves me a huge amount of time of like.
Where she discusses how to create a happier life and how to implement good habits with her sister Elizabeth Kraft. Fast company
opening and clicking, and I can just have everything on. And you would think it would be very distracting, but in fact, I find that it's not distracting. It actually helps me to focus because I'm not distracted by needing to click. I can just have what I need up.
Have you ever read The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch?
Oh, sure, of course, yes.
My dad died from ALS about 2 years ago. And my dad was a huge fan of Randy Pausch. And so it's kind of weird, but my dad introduced me to the book in 2008, I believe, 2007, maybe 8. And Randy Pausch, you know, he was a guy, for anybody out there who doesn't know, he was terminally ill of cancer, I believe. And he made a list of things that would save you time if you implemented them. And one of the things he talked about, and this is a Carnegie Mellon professor, he said if you had 2 monitors, it would save you a lot of time because of exactly what you just said. And so I was introduced to the idea of 2 monitors from my dad. And it was, and I know it doesn't seem like a dramatic thing, but it saves people, Gretchen, like an hour a day if you have 2 monitors.
It does.
And then if you add that up, so my dad got sick with ALS, I had the time to visit my dad because I didn't spend 8 hours a week minimizing Windows.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just want to encourage everybody out there. It's powerful. And you have come up with ways to make people dramatic. Somebody named Gretchen Rubin as one of America's most creative people in business. And she is a member, Chup, of Oprah's Super Soul 100.
The Super Soul.
She's been interviewed by Oprah, and she's one of the few authors to dramatically happier. Ways that we can all, as listeners, become dramatically happier. And I'd like to kind of deep dive into that because you have these little simple hacks that you've researched and studied, and you've got to a place where you give people a whole lot of different ways that they can be happier. And one of the things you talked about was having your own commandments. These commandments. And I heard you talk about your 12 commandments. Maybe you've updated, maybe you have 13 now. Or
Nope, I have 12. Still
12.
the same 12.
So what I would like to do is first, can we talk about commandments and why it's good for all of our listeners out there to have? Because a monitor, just having 2 monitors can save you like an hour a day. But these commandments can make your life exponentially happier. Can you talk about the importance of why all of our listeners need to write down their own set of commandments?
Well, I think to be happier, you really have to think about, what do you want from your life and what are your values? What are your interests? What's important to you? And the thing about, and it took me months to write my commandments. I don't think this is something that a person could just sit down and bang out in an hour. So what I wanted to do with the commandments is to articulate my values, what I really wanted to live, not make your bed every day, which I do, but deeper, more transcendent values, but also in a pithy way. Because if you're have a mission statement that's a paragraph long, you're yada, 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 but I wanted it to be very succinct so it would kind of stick in my mind better, that I could review them quickly and really have them echoing through my brain as I went through my day every day. And it was interesting to get to 12 because sometimes there would be more and sometimes there would be fewer. And then I would think, well, these 2.
That is sick, dude.
No, okay, sorry. No. Hey, we're not going to do this
We're not doing this.
We're not going to do this.
It's gross.
What's that, Clay? We have to do it? Okay.
We have, Chup, 2 books on the New York Times bestseller list at the same time.
What can you say?
Happier at Home and The Happiness Project.
Things are actually just different ways of saying the same thing. So part of it was that it was very creative. It was sort of fun to kind of think well, how would I really distill down what's most important to me?
Right.
And I've heard of people doing it themselves because it is a really fun, creative thing. Or they do it in a Bible study group as a group exercise. Or sometimes people do it for their children because they want to say I want my children to sort of see what's important to me. And what's funny because people will often send me their personal commandments is that you can read someone's personal commandments, which is probably the whole thing is 100 words, and you really get a good sense of them, what they're deep, deep, deep inside. Not what they're on the surface, but you're I know where this person is coming from. I know what their struggles are. I know what they value because it's in the personal commandments. And what's funny is that some people's commandments are the opposite of other people's. Some people's it's do it now, and somebody else could say wait. And one year my sister does this too in her own way. And I had the word bigger as kind of as a theme, and she had the word smaller. These aren't our personal commandments, but kind of a related,
and is this
related endeavor. So
is this Elizabeth?
It's not there's one size fits all.
Is this Elizabeth? You're talking about your sister, Elizabeth?
Yes, that's my sister. She's the co-host of my podcast. Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry to cut you off. I just want to make sure the listeners know because you guys do that weekly podcast. I want to make sure. Okay, so you and your sister. I mean, are your commandments very different? Are they very different?
They are different, but because mine are so specific to me. I mean, literally the first one is be Gretchen. So that people will often say oh, I should use your commandment. No, you have to substitute your own.
She's walked arm in arm with the Dalai Lama, and she's even been the answer on the game show Jeopardy! And as a result of several recent poor life choices, she is now on the Thrivetime show.
But yeah, it's this idea is that it really has to come from what's most important to you, and also kind of what your failings are. Because several of my commandments are really about reminding me to kind of push myself to expect more from myself. Like one of mine is no calculation, because my spiritual master is Saint Therese of Lisieux, even though I'm not even Catholic, but I love Saint Therese, and she said in her memoir, when one loves, one does not calculate. And the thing about me is I'm a bean counter. I'm like, I did this for you, so you should do this for me. I took my turn, now it's your turn.
Here we go.
That's not a good way to be.
Come on. That's a good way. That's the way I am. That's the way I.
Close to the bone.
I want to be like, no calculation.
Personal attack.
Like, you know what I mean? Because otherwise, because it sort of like reminds me to like go against that a little bit.
Right. Now, what I want to do is I want to read each one of your commandments, and I'd like for you to give us kind of a quick, summary of what it is. Here we go.
Okay.
Commandment number 1, we talked about it, be Gretchen, which substitute for your name. Commandment number 2, let it go. What does that mean? Which
is like, there's so many things where you're like, just let it go. This is not my business. This is not my problem. It doesn't matter if this gets solved. I can leave that comment unsaid. Somebody said, in a happy marriage, like 3 things are unsaid each day. I'm like, yeah, just let that go. You don't need to comment. You don't need to say, I told you so. You don't need to say, why didn't you or why won't you? Just let it go.
A quick apology on behalf of all men out there.
Yes.
Basically, what I've discovered, my wife is usually right, but not until somebody from the business world tells me. So my wife will make up. Gretchen Rubin, how are you?
I'm so happy to be talking to you. Thank you.
Well, hey, I want to, for the listener, very astute, very masterful, very wise recommendation, and I'll say, oh, come on. Yeah, your tone was so negative. Unbelievable. And then I'll go talk to like Lee Cockerell, who managed Walt Disney World for 10 years. And he'll make the exact same statement. Then I'll come back to her, Gretchen, usually 18 to 24 months later, and I'll say, Vanessa, Lee told me this.
He had this brilliant idea.
And then she'll say, I told you that 24 months ago. And I'll say, that's true. But let's not talk about the past. So, okay. Now, the third is act the way I want to feel. What does that mean?
Well, this is a very interesting psychological phenomenon that we can all take advantage of, which is we feel that we act because of the way we feel. So like I'm yelling and slamming doors because I'm angry. But to a very great extent, the brain assumes that we're feeling something because of the way we're acting. So the brain is really like, wow, people are yelling and slamming doors. I guess there's a lot of anger in here. And so you can really take advantage of this by acting the way you wish you felt. So if you feel kind of low energy, act with more energy, talk with more animation, move more quickly, kind of force yourself to run down the stairs, and you will start to feel more energetic. Or if you're feeling kind of reserved and you don't really want to deal with anybody, go out there and really kind of force yourself to be overtly friendly, really go out of your way to meet people's eyes and, have conversation. That will give you that feeling. If you're feeling angry or resentful to somebody, start thinking like, but I'm grateful for this person. Why do I feel grateful for this person? And as you begin to like say, I really appreciate that you always get that report in on time. Like that really makes my life easier, that I know that I can count on you to always be timely. You will start to feel yourself.
Out there that aren't as familiar with your books as I am, I want to start at the beginning, before you were a best-selling author, when you were a lawyer. When did you decide to become a lawyer, and why would
these emotions coming and they're authentic. You really are truly feeling them. It's just that you've engendered them in yourself by changing your behavior. It's hard to change our emotions. It's much easier to change our behavior. And by changing your behavior, you can change your emotional state.
Hypothetically, not at all happening now, but in a parallel universe, if you were to interview Gretchen Rubin and you would be out of your mind nervous, what you would say is, I am calm. I feel confident.
Very much not
I am not at all nervous. I'm not overwhelmed by the gravity of interviewing somebody who's sold 3 million books, and so I must ask you, number 4. Okay, so do it now. What was the commandment number 4? Do it now. What does that mean?
Do it now means just like a lot of times it's just easier. Go ahead and do it now. Like why? Like getting my flu vaccine last year. I'm embarrassed to say, I kept wanting to do it. Put it off. There's a better time. Oh, it's going to be more convenient. And the whole year went by. And this year I'm like, just do it now. Go there, get the flu vaccine, and just like get that noise out of your head and get the advantage of getting the flu vaccine. So it's like without delay is the best way, almost always. And so it's like try to get things done right away. It's just easier.
Should you want to have a guy on your podcast that would talk about how it took him 3 attempts to get a vasectomy, I would be happy to talk about that because I put it off. We have 5 kids. And I'm not kidding. We wanted to have 5 kids. And my wife said, you have to have a vasectomy. And I put that thing off for the longest. I almost became a celibate monk. I mean, Chip, I was living on the couch.
You didn't put it off. You fled the scene of the doctor's office.
Gretchen and I would show up for the procedure.
Wow.
And you want to do that to yourself.
You know, I went to law school for the same reason a lot of people go, which is I was good at research and writing.
The doctor would say, well, okay, you drop your pants. And I'm like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I never came back. I did it 3 times.
He crawled out the window.
True story. I paid full price twice where I never delivered. So that's a separate conversation.
Well, I think a doctor should have been able to do a better job with you. I think that there could have been a little bit more of an understanding of how you needed to be talked to in a way that would help you with that situation.
Yeah,
a red dart in the back of the neck.
I felt mentally violated just by having an appointment. That's what I felt. Okay, so be polite and be fair. What does that mean, number 5?
So I had a boss early in my career who, she was this incredibly fierce, stern, tiny woman, and I was getting a big promotion, and I was nervous about whether I was going to be able to do it. And I said to her, I'm nervous about whether I'm going to be able to do this. I was going to be managing people who were much older than I was. So it was very intimidating in that way. And she looked at me and she said, be polite and be fair and you will be fine. And I have realized in life that is very profound. If you are polite and you are fair, that gets you a long way to doing the right thing. And so I just always remind myself, be polite and be fair.
Enjoy the process. What does that mean?
Oh, this is something my dad always says. This is his advice for my sister and me, which is if you enjoy the process, then life is good. You know, then you're enjoying what you're doing. But if you're always counting on a result and you're miserable along the way, then if you don't get what you want, then it's all been a huge waste. And then even if you do get what you want, you've had all night thought, I didn't know what else to do with myself. And I thought, well, it's a great education. It'll keep my options open. I can change my mind later. It's good preparation for a lot of different, avenues. And it's time that you have not enjoyed or appreciated. So he's always it's when you have really little kids and they're driving you crazy, enjoy the process. Or my sister is a television writer. She's got, she's like a showrunner. She's got a huge demanding job. And she has a sign above her office that says, it's a fun job and I enjoy it. To remind herself, this is what I wanted. This is what I asked for. This is what I like. Enjoy the process, remember. And so, when I'm getting criticism from my editor, I think, enjoy the process. This is part of the process. I love this.
For anybody out there who wants to read all 12 of your commandments, what's the best place where they can find them all? Where would you direct our listeners to go to?
Go to my site, GretchenRubin.com, and just search, and you will find it because I've written about it several times. It's an idea that people are really interested in, so I've written about it a lot. And I also have examples of other people's commandments because I think sometimes people get ideas for their own commandments by seeing what other people choose, and that is totally fine. You can look around the world and get ideas from other people, absolutely. Just like many of mine are quotations or inspired by other people. I think that's a great way to get some of your commandments.
Well, out of respect for your time, I have 3 final questions I want to ask you. And I heard you say during one of your interviews, you said that you would prefer, and if I'm getting out of context, I apologize. You said you'd prefer for every day to be the same.
Yes.
I feel like I've said that to Eric and to all the members of our team at least thousands of times.
I was going to say at least every day.
Really?
Oh,
yes. Yeah. I literally wear the same exact thing.
This is true.
Every single day. I wear a hat that says...
Oh, I hadn't really thought much about whether I wanted to be a lawyer. And in fact, if you want to be a lawyer, going to law school is a great way to become a lawyer. I know many people who wanted...
Boom. I wear a jersey. On the back of it, it says my wife's name, Vanessa, because I want to make sure I focus on what matters. And I every single day.
Yep.
And so can you talk to me about what you meant by that statement? Because when I heard you make that statement, I thought, we're the same person.
No, right? It's so, I love routine. I love habit. It makes me feel energized. I love feeling like everything's in the right place. I there's decision fatigue. You don't have decision fatigue about what to wear because you wear the same thing every day.
Right.
You've decided what you want to wear and why. It makes perfect sense for you. You're doing it. I would love to sort of I get up at 6 a.m. every day because it's pretty easy to set the time that you wake up. But it's like, I would love to like go to the library every day at the same time, or like do my email every day at the same time. But I've got to do an interview, or I've got to,
Sorry about that, by
record,
the way.
or
Sorry.
I've got to,
So
know. So part of it. But if I could be a Benedictine monk and have that kind of
in a water tower.
I love those hours that they have.
Right.
It's just so appeals to me.
Okay, so your newest book, again, I know you're working on another book, but your newest book is called The Four Tendencies. Can you share with the listeners about what this book is all about and why everybody, and I'm not attacking anybody, but I'm saying if you don't buy this book, one would question what you're putting where typically people might put a
People
soul.
have said.
People have
we
said.
Wouldn't say it.
We wouldn't say it. But with the four tendencies, why would all the listeners want to check that out?
Well, what it does is it's a personality framework that tells you whether you're an upholder, a questioner, an obliger, or a rebel. And there's a quiz on my site if people want to take the quiz and find out what they are. It's at GretchenRubin.com. But what's helpful to lawyers, and that's a great thing to do, but it's not a great thing to do if you just don't know what else to do with yourself. But I had a great time in law school. I had a great experience, and I was clerking. But knowing your tendency is then you can really set things up. Like if you're having trouble changing a habit, or you're feeling frustrated or burned out, or you're procrastinating on something, knowing your tendency really helps you figure out exactly what to do differently. It's not just like throw spaghetti against a wall, and it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, because as we all know, the fact that something works really well for somebody else doesn't necessarily mean that it works well for me. And a lot of times people blame themselves for that. I'm like, no, it's because people are different. So this doesn't work for you. Here are these other things to try. And the four tendencies, if you know yourself, but then if you know other people, so you're working with somebody who you're like, I don't understand. Like, why are they driving me crazy? Like, why are they doing this thing that makes no sense? Why aren't they responding in the way that I would think they would respond? A lot of times if you understand their tendency, it's much clearer why they see the world the way they do and why they're behaving the way they do. And so then you can just reach a place of like harmony and efficiency much more easily, because you're not trying to say like, well, you're right, I'm wrong, or thinking I'm wrong and you're right. You're just like, okay, well, given our different perspectives, how do we come together in a place that works for both of us? And that's a lot easier when you have a vocabulary and kind of understand the underpinnings of what's going on.
In your book, I mean, you break it down. You talk about how the questioner resists the outer expectations, but meets their inner expectations. I mean, you get into deep dive about the obliger, the rebel, the upholders. It's a phenomenal book to understand the way that people think. And I just, your research is so intense and so in depth. I feel like you're giving us 2 years of your life of research, and you're condensing it into, a couple hundred pages, 300 pages.
For Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, when I realized that I actually wanted to be a writer.
How long did you spend researching the four tendencies before you released that book?
Well, I had my previous book was a book called Better Than Before. That's about the 21 strategies that people can use to make or break habits. So I actually figured out the existence of the four tendencies as part of studying habits, because I was like, how do you explain these patterns and how people can and can't change habits? So that led me to the four tendencies. And so I wrote a chapter in that book, but that was one of 21 chapters because it was just one of 21 strategies. And after Better Than Before came out, I was just deluged with people who were like asking me questions, like, I need to know this. I want to teach a workshop. I need more. And finally I thought, oh my gosh, I really need to go in. And first I was going to write a little PDF, and then I was going to write a pamphlet. And then I'm like, no, I have to write a whole book, because people were asking me such kind of really thoughtful, deep questions, and asking me how would you approach a different, I'm a doctor and I can't get my patients to take their medication, or I work with somebody who won't meet a deadline even though they're perfectly capable of it, or why does this person keep every 3 years suddenly quitting their job with deep resentment? What's going on? And so it just turned into a book. So it took me about 2 years to write the book, but I've been thinking about it for much longer because it was part of Better Than Before. So probably 4 years I've been thinking about it. But I made it up, so I couldn't go to the library and look it up. I had to try to indirectly find stuff. And so I was looking for movies and books where you see the tendencies, and looking for indirect, studies of conscientiousness. What does that mean? It was hard. I want
to what you just said is so profound. I coach businesses all over the world. I've worked with, UPS and Hewlett Packard and big companies. And what will happen a lot of times, Gretchen, is you'll meet the CEO of something or the executive.
It's hard to come up with something original because you can't really do your research.
Gosh, man, time flies. I'd say right around 4 or 5 years ago, I just kind of felt like we were stuck and my wheels weren't moving, and I had this goal and I just didn't really know how to get there. So you guys actually helped me with that. And, I reached out to you guys. We started our relationship. We started our coaching sessions, and you guys helped me build a lot of the systems that we have now. But Clay, had I not actually sat down and took the time and the energy to reach out to you and then set aside time every single week to actually work on the specific goal of scaling Window Ninjas, then it would have never happened, and we wouldn't have it wouldn't have come to fruition like it is today.
Gabe Salinas, welcome on to the Thrivetime Show. How are you, sir?
I am wonderful, Clay. I'm glad to be here with you today.
And just to give people a little context, how long have we worked with you in your business, sir?
A little over 3 years, Clay. We've been together for a little bit of a journey now.
And I think we picked the best of times and the worst of times to work together. I mean, it's like right at the peak of the geopolitical craziness. That's when we started working with you. But you've continued to grow. What kind of growth have you seen over these past 3 years? Just so the listeners know that you do have, in fact, a business that can navigate through difficult times.
Well, we have over doubled our business here at Window Ninjas since working with you. I actually went back and looked through our numbers, and I looked at some of our goals that we had set in the original conversation that I had with your team. And we have surpassed my original number that I wanted to hit with you guys. And I was quite shocked at how.
What's up? I'm Josh.
And I'm Chris.
And we need a boost. And the only way we know how to do that is to drink 72
Red Bulls.
Bottoms up, baby. 1, 2, 3, go!
Executive of something or the VP of something, and they hate their career, but they don't have the courage yet, or
I won't say easy, but systematic it was for us to be able to get to where we wanted to be.
Okay, Thrive Nation, on part 2 of today's show, we're talking to an actual longtime client who's having massive success, and he's going to walk us through the brass tacks of what it takes to run a Window Ninjas business. Now that he's systemized it, now that he's refined everything, the logo, the branding, the marketing, the systems, what is a day like in the life of a WindowNinjas.com franchisee? Here to talk about it is Window Ninjas founder Gabe Salinas. Welcome on to the Thrivetime Show. How are you, sir?
Hey, Clay, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me again.
Gabe, I've got 5 rapid-fire questions for you real quick here, just to give some context. How many locations of Window Ninjas do you have open now today?
Today we have 10 locations.
10 locations. And so for people out there that are wanting to team up with you, you are an established brand. Walk us through, what does a life of a franchisee look like? If somebody reaches out to you and they decide to buy a Window Ninjas franchise, you have diligently created all these systems and processes over the last few years. What is it like on the average day in the life of a franchisee?
That's a great question, Clay, and it really depends on a couple of factors. One, how established they are, what their revenue is, if they're in the in the beginning stages, like maybe their first year, as opposed to maybe their third or fourth year. And I'll run through those three different types that we're finding right now. And one is an owner operator. That's the guy who's just started up. He's got a couple of employees. He's managing those employees. He's doing the quotes. He's meeting customers. He's doing drop-offs. He's making sure that his accounting is all good, and he's operating the business, and he's working.
The motivation yet, or whatever that is, they don't have that yet to actually quit and do something else. And you actually had a law degree from not just any school, but from Yale. I mean, you were working with Justice Sandra Day
in the business, and he's trying to get himself scaled up so that he can have somebody that is in the next phase, which is like a manager-run operation. Maybe he's going to be that manager, and he's going to have team leads underneath him that are operating his trucks, running them the same way that he would do as himself. And he's pretty much doing quotes as well. And then that guy's still, checking over his numbers, but he's basically alleviated himself from the physicality of the work. He has guys that are doing that stuff for him. He's still doing his drop-offs, marketing, meet greets, things like that. He's probably amplifying that up. And then in the third stage, you got somebody, I would say like myself. I have a couple of our corporate stores, and I do not work inside of that business. I have a manager or managers that operate those locations. I hold them accountable. They basically will meet with me or my operations officer. And they are basically running the ship. They're doing every single part of the system that needs to be done. They are, generating income for themselves. Yep, we pay managers pretty well. They're making sure all the crew leaders are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And they're basically taking care of the business day to day, where all I have to do is come in and basically look at some numbers, making sure everything is checked off, everything's doing it the way that I need it to be done. just checking my key metrics. And yeah, and basically I'm spending very little time within that operations at all. It's just basically top tier stuff, man. We're just basically looking over numbers, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and just that's pretty much it. I spend very, very little time within that organization myself.
Let me pull up. I'm going to take some Connor from 95 to 96. I mean, when he could say you were a rising star, you already were a star. Where did that courage notes here? And I want all the listeners to be able to follow along with me on the screen here. So first, step number one, if you own a Window Ninjas franchise, correct me if I'm wrong here, we have to do marketing. Step number two is we're going to have to hire people. We have to hire, this might be called human resources, depending upon how you look at this. The next step we need to do is we need to actually wow our customers. This will be service delivery. And then we've got to do that accounting. And so I want to kind of get into those systems one by one if we can, because you've really made it turnkey for people. So on the marketing side, what is the expectation? What's expected of a franchisee as it relates to marketing?
Well, there's a certain percentage of revenue that they need to be putting back towards marketing. And it depends at what level of revenue that you're bringing in, right? 3% of $1 million is a lot different than 3% of, let's say, zero. So in the initial phases, we're expecting these guys to spend a good portion of revenue to get that marketing wheel rolling, so to say. And that is so that they can bring in customers and they can start bringing and attracting new clients. So we have a number, how many customers that we need to actually service for them to hit a certain breakpoint number.
And so you're giving people a plan when they start. I mean, you're giving them a step-by-step plan for marketing, right?
Absolutely, 100%. They know exactly, we tell them exactly what to utilize, AdWords, Google, this, that, and the other, pay-per-click, local services, whether it's door hangers. I mean, there's a whole lot of different things that we utilize, and we're giving them that specific plan, and we know exactly how much they should be spending on it at each level of.
Quit the career you didn't love and move on to something else come from?
I was really lucky because I think you're right. A lot of times people know what they don't like, but they don't know
what we call like breakpoints. There's a first breakpoint, second breakpoint, third breakpoint, fourth breakpoint. And what that does is that basically starts to say, okay, well, we've got this many customers. We've attracted this many with our spend. Now we have these repeat customers. We're getting more revenue out of those guys, and we're still looking for more customers till we hit that certain number to get us to that break point. And then, that marketing number starts coming down a little bit just because we have so much repeat business.
Just to be super clear for everybody out there, again, step number one, marketing. You've thought through all those systems at windowninjas.com. You're not hacking away, giving people ideas that may work. You have a system in place that does work, and I know we've worked with you over the past several years to help you build a lot of those systems, so I feel very good about it. Now, step number two is you have to have a process for hiring and training people. How do you hire, inspire, train, and retain good people? Gabe, I think that's the one challenge that a lot of people have when they think about buying a franchise is, one is how do I generate leads, AKA marketing? And then two, how do I find good people? What would you say for anybody out there that says, hey, I'm looking at buying a franchise? What kind of systems do you provide franchisees to teach them how to hire, inspire, train, and retain good people?
Well, it's funny. We have a system for everything, especially when it comes to hiring. And the way we look at hiring is the same way we look at marketing. We definitely got to market to people who we want to service, right? We want to be able to go out and have windows to clean and houses to pressure wash and gutters that need to be cleaned as well. But we also got to have those employees that can actually physically do that work. And so we have to market to specific segments of the population in order to attract people to come.
What they want. And I was really lucky because I'm kind of a person who I get very, very interested in things and will do a ton of research.
And work for us over here at Window Ninjas. And it's more than just attracting people. When I say market it to them, it's like you want to market to the correct people who fit the right parameters for this type of job. You got to have people that are not afraid of heights. You got to have people that have a good driving record. You got to have some people that definitely want more than just the average and ordinary. And so just like the customers that you're looking to attract to service them, you also got to have a marketing plan to attract employees to your business, and the right type of employees. And so with our systems over here, we are continuously looking for great people, and we market, whether it's through Indeed and other ads and other forms, of marketing that we utilize to attract people. And every single week we bring in a batch of people. We always have a bunch of resumes coming in. We always have people responding to our ads that we're running for help wanted and service professionals needed. And what happens is we're always in an abundance of people because inevitably somebody may have a personal emergency. They may fall off. They may want to go back to college. They may want to do this, that, and the other. And it's always nice to have a batch of people ready to jump in and take over that position because they know what kind of opportunity that we're going to provide them over here at Window Ninjas. And it really comes back to that keyword market. You got to market to those specific people that you want.
And again, I just want to be very clear. We've worked with Gabe over these past several years, and we've helped refine all these systems. And Gabe, I could not be more confident about the systems you've put in place, the marketing systems.
And that's happened to me my whole life. But while I was clerking, I became obsessed with like this idea. I was walking during my lunch hour one day and I was looking up at the Capitol Dome and I thought,
our turnkey, the human resource systems are turnkey. The third and fourth areas we want to make sure that everybody out there watching, these are the kinds of questions people have when they want to buy a franchise is, service delivery. Do you teach people how to deliver the service? I know you mentioned someone can't be afraid of heights. How tall of a building are you cleaning? Because again, you're a window cleaning company. How tall of a window or of a building are you servicing? Do you train franchisees on how to clean windows? What does that train? If someone is watching the show today and they have no experience in the window cleaning industry, what kind of training do you provide for franchisees?
Well, just like any other thing, Clay, I mean, it's all built on systems, and we have a system for training employees as well as franchisees to be able to do the physical work. We go up and we do things we do high-rise commercial work, which means we could do buildings 60, 70, 80, 100 stories tall. We can do mid-rise buildings that are what we call 4 stories and below. And then we're also in residential homes. So we don't just delineate ourselves to one segment of window cleaning or pressure washing. We can actually service any type of property out there in the world. And so in order to do that, we have to have great people. We market to those guys, we find the great people, and then we have to be able to train those people. And we have systems in place. We have trainers in place who actually will physically train new employees, new franchisees, new managers, new accountants, new call center agents. We have a lot of different opportunities over here at Window Ninjas as it relates to jobs within our business. And so we have a way of training those.
What am I interested in that everybody else in the world is interested in? And I thought, well, power, money, fame, sex, and it was
employees based on what their job position is. And if they're window cleaners, they can't be afraid of heights. Typically those guys like heights. They like working outdoors. They like sweating. They like being a little cool in the wintertime.
Get out of here. How tall are these buildings? How tall are these buildings?
Oh man, we're getting up. The last one we did was like 80 stories.
No, you didn't. 80 stories?
Pretty tall. Yeah.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on.
Nah, man.
You have people that want to do that? There's people that want to do that?
Oh yeah, man. There are people that love doing stuff like that. We got guys that's all they want to do, Clay. It's crazy, man. Those boys love sitting on a rope or hanging off a rope on the side of a building, just putting that squeegee to glass and it's just what they love doing. It's a really cool job. They see some great things. They see the skylines, man. It's pretty cool what they see. Man, we had some guys working at the beach not too long ago on like a 6-story building. And man, those boys were loving it. They were out there getting suntan, and they were watching the girls on the beach, and they were cleaning glass, and they were happy as a lark.
I can believe you, but it's just unbelievable that people like to clean glass that high. Now, but you also do residential cleaning, right? So if people want to clean neighborhoods and homes. Does that make up a certain percentage of the business? Is that half of the business or a third? Do you guys do a lot of residential cleaning, or is it primarily commercial window cleaning?
I think we're a little heavy on the residential side. In fact, I think we're probably about a 65% residential. And we've got a lot.
Power, money, fame, sex. It became this thing that this idea that I started to research in my free time. And eventually it occurred to me, this is what a person would do if they were going to write a book about it.
Guys, men and women that love just serving residential clients. They are very personal people. They like working directly with the homeowner. They like to facilitate the need of the homeowner, whether it's cleaning their windows or washing their houses or cleaning the gutters out or maybe putting holiday lights up at Christmas time. But yeah, it's funny because as in our profession, we definitely find that our employees typically will coagulate towards one segment of the service industry, whether it's the residential side or the commercial side. And that's what's cool over here at Window Ninjas is what we do is when we find great people, we give them we test them to kind of figure out where they're best suited, and we always like to put people in the right seat. So the last thing we want to do is put a guy who really enjoys working inside residential homes with residential customers. We don't want to put that guy on the side of a building if he's not getting that interaction that he's used to with the customers. And so we always make sure that we're putting everybody in the right seat based on their capabilities and based on what they're really good at. And so we have a really good knack of finding that from each and every one of our employees.
You are
That's
a wild
that's
man.
probably one of the things why we keep our employees so long and is another reason why we take a lot of our entry level employees, lift them up, build them up, teach them, have them grow, and they start running trucks. And then we even have some Clay that are actually franchise owners now, which is pretty cool.
Now, final two questions I have here for you is one, we're going to have to see your dog / mascot here in just a second. People want to know what kind of dog this is. Is this an
Maybe I should write a book. And so at that point, I felt this tremendous pull. You know, it's like when the Death Star has the Millennium Falcon in the track.
Ewok? Is this a dog? So I want to ask you, my two final questions are financing the business itself. When a lot of people want to buy a franchise, and I've worked in the franchising space for 20 years. So in the franchising space, almost everybody who buys a franchise goes and gets some kind of financing. Just like most people that buy a car get some kind of funding. Again, most people that buy a car go get a loan for the car. They make car payments. Most people that buy a small business, they go get a loan for the business. They make interest payments. They make loan payments. Talk to us about the financing of the franchise, and then maybe introduce us to your mascot / dog.
I gotcha. Financing is pretty easy. I mean, you can get into a Window Ninjas franchise for as little as $88,000. And we have lending sources that can get anybody up to $100,000 and they can get them qualified within 30 days, which is really, really cool. Because with $100,000, you can basically purchase the territory that you're looking in. You can have your trucks, all your equipment, and have money to spend for marketing and have a cushion of about 2 months. We do like to see people who have saved some cash on hand, and we analyze what they have, and so that we try to put them in the right realm of financing if they need to have it. And we just start analyzing, okay, cool, this is where you need to spend much money on marketing, this, that, and the other. And then maybe if they're a little short on some cash, we're always trying to find them better deals on equipment or maybe buy a used truck as opposed to new. So there's all kinds of different ways to do this when you're starting a Window Ninjas franchise. We help you every single step of the way.
And it's you're going to go. You know, I felt the pull toward me. And so I think that made it a lot easier for me because it wasn't like I was so dissatisfied with what I had. It was that all of a sudden there was something I really.
And that's something else that's really cool. It's something that that differentiates us from a lot of other companies out there that are doing similar service business like us.
Now show us this dog. Is this your mascot? Is this your official company dog here?
This is Dante, and I am working from home today, Clay. So on the Zoom meeting, Mr. Dante decided he wanted to come see me, so he was scratching at my door. So I let Dante.
How old is Dante?
Dante is a little over a year.
Really? And does Dante work in the business? Does he
every day?
Does he come with you in the trucks or to office?
Dante loves going into the call center. Dante loves hanging out on our call center agents' desks and just sitting there chilling while they're facilitating the needs of a lot of our customers.
And Dante, you have a call center that answers the phones for all of the customers, right? Can you explain that? Because people out there, they might not know that. That's one thing that really separates Window Ninjas from other franchises. You have a scheduling center, a call center that actually handles all of the scheduling for all of the franchisees.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, yeah, and that's one of the big benefits of a Window Ninjas franchise is you don't have to go out there and get retail space, commercial space, and employ somebody to answer your phones. Man, we do it for them. We answer all their calls. We help the customers over the phone, and we schedule those jobs for them immediately. And if a customer requests a quote and would like to see one of the local guys come out and provide that quote to them, we set that up for them. So at the end of the day, it allows our franchisees the opportunity to, depending on what level they're at, either maybe they're physically cleaning some glass for their customers in the beginning, maybe they're out checking.
Okay.
Really, really wanted to do. And so that felt very affirmative. And like, so then it was a question of like, well, how do I do that? That was a huge challenge.
On their guys, the guys that are leading each individual truck. Maybe they're going out there and networking with the community so that they can pick up more jobs, but it allows them time freedom to do things that are extremely important in the business. And our call center benefits them by just taking those calls, facilitating those clients' needs, scheduling the jobs, following up with those customers, making sure that, hey, it's okay for us to run those credit card numbers and things of that nature. And it's just a really good team effort between us as Azure and the Z's out there who are really doing the hard work on the ground. You know, those guys are out there facilitating all those customers' needs, and they don't need to be answering the phones. And so we do that for them. It makes it really, really easy on them. And hey, it benefits the client at the end of the day.
Folks, I encourage everybody out there, if you're not familiar with windowninjas.com, but you're looking for a business that offers a turnkey opportunity for you to create both time and financial freedom, check it out, windowninjas.com. That's windowninjas.com. That's Dante, the office mascot, and that's Gabe Salinas with windowninjas.com. Gabe, I really do appreciate you. Dante, I appreciate you as well. And Gabe, we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds great, Clay. Thank you.
Bye.
Clay, my honor to be on your show. And thank you for all you do. I hear the ripple effects from you are good ripple effects. You know what I mean? People rave about what they learned from you. So congratulations.
Sean, guess what's happening June 5th and 6th right here in Tulsa, Jerusalem?
We are probably going to have an amazing business conference here at Tulsa, Jerusalem.
Yes, we're joined by Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow is going to be joining us right here at the Thrivetime Show World Headquarters.
But I knew what it was that I wanted. And I think that makes it easier in a way than people who just know, I want something else. I don't know what that looks like yet.
You are hearing in your mind. June 5th and 6th. He's a very successful football player, obviously a Heisman Award winner, but he's also a very successful entrepreneur. Now, when you work with real clients, Sean, clients you really work with to help them grow their companies, do you ever hear a business owner tell you that they didn't have time to get something done?
Every day.
How often is not having enough time a problem for business owners?
All the time. It's like maybe 90% of the issues as people are trying to grow their company.
Well, Tim Tebow is going to come join us here at the in-person Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive business workshop, and he's going to teach us time management and his approach to personal self-discipline and getting things done. Also at the workshop, I'll put it up on the website so people can see it here. Also at the 2-day interactive workshop, Sean, we are going to be, there it is. We're going to be teaching accounting, systems creation, marketing, human resources, how to hire, inspire, train, and retain great people, accounting, social media advertising, search engine optimization. Sean, what's the area where most clients ask you for help the most? Is it generating leads? Is it hiring people? What's the biggest issue that most business owners have by default before they come to one of our workshops?
Well, I think it's management, because time is the most valuable resource for these business owners, and being able to manage their time is the first thing. Once they get that under control, then generally the numbers, being able to track their business and be able to make the best decisions based on numbers rather than emotions is a big area. And we teach all of this stuff at the business conference, particularly you, Clay. You love
the Empire, the kind of the Darth Vader theme song, that bum, bum,
Yeah.
bum, bum, bum.
Yes.
And so you're feeling the tractor being pulled.
to hammer on time management. It's my favorite part of the conference.
Now I'm going to pull this up real quick here because we're going to go through. If you're not excited, I want to get you excited about what we're going to cover at the workshop here. Okay.
Okay.
The 2-day interactive workshop. This is my 20th year hosting workshops. So I'm telling you folks, we're in rare form here. So one is the idea of establishing your revenue goals. I think most entrepreneurs don't know their revenue goals. Would you agree, or am I off my rocker?
No, that's totally a very important point we do with every one of our new clients that come on board is we have to establish the revenue goals. And generally speaking, we have a vague idea, but not an exact idea that can be engineered down into like the daily goals for sales. And so that's a really big one.
Now, next is the break break-even numbers. What kind of sales do you have to do to even break even?
Yeah.
Third is, how many hours per week do you want to work? What is your ideal schedule as an entrepreneur? Box number 4, how do you stand out in the clutter of commerce? What makes your company unique from all the different businesses? In a world of brown cows, herds of brown cows, proverbial brown cows, the analogy of brown cows, how can you be the purple cow that stands out? How can you be the squeaky wheel that gets the oil? Box number 5, branding. How do you improve the perception that people have of you, your business, your brand? Box number 6, marketing, your three-legged marketing stool. What is a turnkey way for you and your company to generate leads so you can succeed? Because if you don't have any leads, your business will bleed. If you can't sell, your business will go to hell. You've got to generate leads. Sean, how often do business owners by default tell you they have a hard time generating leads?
It's almost all of the time. It's
You in here, and I heard you actually say, now you can retract this statement if you want, but I heard you on one of your podcasts, of which you've done hundreds and hundreds. I heard you say that you actually got to a place where you would rather fail.
really a huge struggle. And many times they may be creating leads, but just through word of mouth. So they get to a point where we've implemented systems and then they need to create more leads, but they've never had to do it. So there's a lot of different scenarios where business owners are like, how do you create leads? Something we hammer on at the conference a lot.
Box number 7, create a sales conversion system. Again, box number 7, create a sales conversion system. Sales scripts, recorded calls, one sheets, pre-written emails, lead trackers, all of the sales tools, the sales print pieces, the one sheets, the big screens that you see inside the business. Whether you're a doctor, you're a dentist, you're a lawyer, you got to have sales systems in place. We help you with that. Box number 8, what does it cost you to get another customer? Step number 8, what does it cost you to actually acquire a customer? Step number 9, it's hard to build an organization if you're not organized. We're going to teach you how to create repeatable systems, processes, file organization. Box number 10, we're going to teach you how to manage people, real people on the planet Earth. This just in, we're going to teach you how to manage real people on the planet Earth. Box number 11, how to create a sustainable schedule that works for you and your family. Step number 12, how to create human resources systems for recruiting, hiring, training, and retaining great people. Box number 13, accounting. This just in, we have to cover accounting. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. We're going to cover all the accounting things you need to know. And step 14, finally, what is the point of even achieving success? We're going to go over what is the point of even achieving success, how to design a life that you're excited about, how to design a life where you carve out enough time for your faith, your family, your finance, your fitness, your friendship, your fun, and where you're going to spend your focused time. We're going to as an author than to succeed as an attorney. Is that correct, or am I misquoting you?
Yeah. No, I just decided.
Go through that. All this and more. Now, the workshop, Sean, it's June 5th and 6th.
Yep.
It's a 2-day interactive workshop.
Yes.
And tickets, we always do. It's $250 or whatever price that someone can afford. Sean, why do we let people name their price? Why do we have scholarship tickets available if somebody can't afford the $250 general admission ticket?
Well, we don't want anybody to miss out on it. You know, you could be at a startup phase or you could be, way along in your business, but we want to make it accessible for everybody. I think it actually goes back to a story of your dad. And it goes all the way back to how you've always done this as a business coach, trying to make sure that, your average people out there have access to the things that work.
Now, 7 a.m. to 5. Sean, why do we go from 7 to 5 both days? I mean, it's 10 hours a day. 20 hours of training over 2 days. Why do we do 10 hours a day, Sean, of back-to-back workshops? We do a 30-minute teaching session. We do a 15-minute question and answer session, and then we take a break. 30 minutes of teaching, 15 minutes of question and answer, then we take a break. Why do we do that format, Sean?
That format is so that we can keep people engaged and not just sitting there listening, but also getting involved. We really encourage people to ask questions, and that's really where the juiciness of the conference comes out, is you can put your personal situation and your questions on the board, and Clay will tee off and give you direct advice. Even without being in our coaching program, you can get direct coaching from Clay. It's really a very engaging format. I enjoy it a lot.
Sean, final 60 seconds, pop quiz here. What date is the conference?
June 5th and 6th, 2025, this year.
Question number 2, who's our keynote speaker coming to the conference there, Sean?
Tim Tebow.
I need to give it a shot, and if I fail, I fail, but I need to try.
And so you made the jump, and a lot of people say, well, what's the linear path to become an author? What is the
is our keynote speaker.
Sean, question number 3. How much does it cost to come to our in-person 2-day interactive business workshop right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
I think it's, did you say it's $250 or whatever you can afford?
That's right, $250 or whatever you can afford. Sean, how do you spell Eric Trump backwards?
P-M-U-R-T-C-I-R-E. Ooh, that took a long time.
I'll have to listen to this. And you did it right. All right, again, that's Sean Lohman. I'm Clay Clark, and inviting you to come join us at the in-person Thrivetime Show 2-day interactive workshop, June 5th and 6th, right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Sean, I'm excited to have this event. I'm excited to see you at the event, June 5th and 6th, right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Tim Tebow, baby. It's Tebow time in Tulsa, Jerusalem.
You could be anywhere doing a lot of different things, but you chose to be here.
Clay Clark is here somewhere. Where's my buddy Clay? Clay's the greatest. I met his goats today. I met his dogs. I met his chickens. I saw his compound. He's like the greatest guy.
I ran from his goats, his chickens, his dogs.
So this guy's like the greatest marketer you've ever seen, right? His entire life, Clay Clark, his entire life is marketing.
Hey guys, Luke Erickson here with the Thrivetime Show. As you can see behind me, we've got all kinds of energy going on. People are starting to show up for the conference, and it is hot in this place. We got grill guns over here.
Step 1, step 2. So I heard that you basically have to renew your license. I coach a lot of attorneys, work with a lot of
people playing the drums. We've got a fire breather, and man, people are so excited as they come in.
The conference is kicked off. This house is packed. We've got Aaron Hansis with Shaw Holmes up there. We've got Steve Currington with Total Ending Concepts up there talking about what is possible when you just implement, when you do the proven system. So exciting. People are going crazy.
Guys, Luke Erickson with the Thrivetime Show here with you. It is day 2, and the energy is high. People are so excited to be showing up. The team is ready. Come on, let's see what it's like to go on in for day 2. Follow me. I'll tell you what, people are so excited to be here for day 2. It is going to be incredible. Cannot wait to see what today has in store.
Right now, here at the conference, we've broken into groups going over search engine optimization. I know for most of us, myself included, if you hear that term, you go, what is that? What does that mean? That's too techie for me. Well, our experts are breaking it down for people so that you can clearly understand how to come up top in Google. It's doable. It's possible.
Now we're in the middle of a break, and what we like to do is we like to give you as much tangible and relevant information from about the start of the hour for 45 minutes. Then we take approximately a 15-minute break to allow people to connect with other entrepreneurs around them. Bathroom breaks.
Lawyers, and you have to, keep your license, your certifications current. And I guess that you had something coming up, and you decided just not to renew it or not to pay the fee or something, and that was your jumping point. Can you?
And also use this time to just really digest all of the good information that you're receiving the whole time. Right behind me, we've got Bob with his grill gun, melting an ice sculpture. It is awesome. The ice sculpture represents our life, right? It's here for a time, but we all need to have the sense of urgency to implement the things that we're learning so that we can make the most of the time that we have.
I heard about it on the podcast. Started listening to the podcast, became a fan, and then figured out about the workshop. I own an insurance and financial services agency, and I was hoping to learn from the workshop systems and processes. I'm big on systems and processes and always learning better ways to run a business more efficiently. The atmosphere's second to none. It's a high energy, really cool atmosphere to be around. Contagious, I would say. Just something every entrepreneur, I think, would appreciate and love. I'd say humorous, high energy, and full of substance, which I think is the key. A lot of business coaches or seminars maybe are high on motivation and making you feel good, but don't have a lot of substance that you can take back and implement, the following Monday, where his does. Man, there's a lot of valuable things. I'm gonna say, this is my second workshop. The first workshop I took back really the importance of a group interview. I used to spend hours and hours interviewing people, screening resumes.
Tell the listeners about that.
Well, another thing that made it easier for me is that my husband was also going through a big transition, and he had decided to leave.
And that saving my time on that part is valuable. It was that and then the sales scripting that have been two major things just so far. Man, I think they're missing out on, expert advice from somebody who's been there, done that, built companies, has learned a lot of lessons. That's what I'm always looking for, is somebody that I can learn from that's ahead of where I am. And I think if you choose not to come, you're missing out on a lot of good advice that could help your business.
Hi, I'm Aaron Antis with Shaw Homes. I first heard about Clay through a mortgage lender here in town who had told me what a great job he had been doing for them. And I actually noticed he was driving a Lamborghini all of a sudden, so I was willing to listen. In my career, I've sold a little over $800 million in real estate. So honestly, I thought I kind of knew everything about marketing and homes. And then I met Clay, and my perception of what I knew and what I could do definitely changed. After doing $800 million in sales over a 15-year career, I really thought I knew what I was doing. I've been managing a large team of salespeople for the last 10 years here with Shaw Homes. And we've been a company that's been in business for 35 years. We've become one of the largest builders in the Tulsa area, and that was without Clay. So when I came to know Clay, I really thought, man, there's not much more I need to know, but I'm willing to listen.
Law and go into finance. So we both were in legal jobs, and we moved from Washington, D.C. to New York. And as part of that move, we were going to get new jobs. He was going to get a job. I was going to try to get an agent and get a...
The interesting thing is our internet leads from our website has actually, in a 4-month period of time, has gone from somewhere around 10 to 15 leads in a month to 180 internet leads in a month. Just from the few things that he's shown us how to implement that I honestly probably never would have come up with on my own. So I got a lot of good things to say about the system that Clay put in place with us. And it's just been an incredible experience. I am very glad that we met and had the opportunity to work with Clay. So the interaction with the team and with Clay on a weekly basis is honestly very enlightening. One of the things that I love about Clay's perspective on things is that he doesn't come from my industry. He's not somebody who's in the home building industry. I've listened to all the experts in my field. Our company has paid for me to go to seminars, international builder shows, all kinds of places where I've had the opportunity to learn from the experts in my industry. But the thing that I found working with Clay is that he comes from such a broad spectrum of working with so many different types of businesses that he has a perspective that's difficult for me to gain because I get so entrenched in what I do, I'm not paying attention to what other leading industry experts are doing. And Clay really brings that perspective for me. It is very valuable time every week when I get that hour with him. From my perspective...
2 at a time, baby. 2 at a time. Here we go. Okay. I'm keep it going. 3 at a time.
Book contract. And so we were starting in New York in these new paths. And the day came, exactly as you said, when we got a lot.
The reason that any business owner who's thinking about hooking up with Thrive needs to definitely consider it is because the results that we've gotten in a very short period of time are honestly monumental. It has really exceeded my wildest expectation of what he might be able to do. I came in skeptical because I'm very pragmatic, and as I've gone through the process over just a few months, I've realized it's probably one of the best moves we've ever made. I think a lot of people probably feel like they don't need a business or marketing consultant because they maybe are a little bit prideful and like to think they know everything. I know that's how I felt coming in. I mean, we're a big company that's definitely one of the largest in town. And so we kind of felt like we knew what we were doing. And I think for a lot of people, they let their ego get in the way of listening to somebody that might have a better or different perspective than theirs. I would just really encourage you, if you're thinking about working with Clay, I mean, the thing is, it's month to month. Go give it a try and see what happens. I think in the 35-year history of Shaw Homes, this is probably the best thing that's happened to us. And I know if you give them a shot, I think you'll feel the same way. I know for me, the thing I would have missed out on if I didn't work with Clay is I would have missed out on literally an 1,800% increase in our internet leads, going from 10 a month to 100.
From the New York bar, one of us did, I forget which one, saying you owe us bar fees because you have to pay your bar fees to be in good standing.
It's
expensive. This is not like $25. This is like you're really paying.
$80 a month. That would have been a huge financial decision to just decide not to give it a shot. I would absolutely recommend Clay Clark to anybody who's thinking about working with somebody in marketing. I would skip over anybody else you were thinking about, and I would go straight to Clay and his team. I guarantee you're not going to regret it because we sure haven't.
My name is Danielle Sprick, and I am the founder of D Sprick Realty Group here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. After being a stay-at-home mom for 12 years and my 3 kids started school and they were in school full-time, I was at a crossroads and trying to decide what do I want to do? My degree and my background is in education, but after being a mom and staying home and all of that, I just didn't have a passion for it like I once did. My husband suggested real estate. He's a home builder, so real estate and home building go hand in hand, and we just roll with it. I love people, I love working with people, I love the building relationships. But one thing that was really difficult for me was the business side of things. The processes and the advertising and marketing. I knew that I did not have what I needed to make that what it should be. So I reached out to Clay at that time, and he and his team have been extremely instrumental in helping us build our brand.
And I said to my husband, gosh, should we pay our bar fees? And he's like, no. And I was like, that
help market our business, our agents, the homes that we represent, everything that we do is a direct line from Clay and his team and all that they've done for us. We launched our brokerage, our real estate brokerage, 8 months ago. And in that time, we've gone from myself and one other agent to just this week, we signed on our 16th agent. We have been blessed with the fact that we right now have just over 10 million in pending transactions. 3 years ago, I never would have even imagined that I would be in this role that I'm in today, building a business, having 16 agents. But I have to give credit where credit's due. And Clay and his team and the business coaching that they've offered us has been huge. It's been instrumental in what we're doing. Don't ever limit your vision. When you dream big, big things happen.
I started a business because I couldn't work for anyone else. I do things my way. I do what I think is in the best interest of the patient. I don't answer to insurance companies. I don't answer to large corporate organizations. I answer to my patient, and that's it. My thought when I opened my clinic was I can do this all myself. I don't need additional outside help in many ways. I went to medical school. I can figure this out. But it was a very, very steep learning curve. Within the first 6 months of opening my clinic, I had a $63,000 embezzlement. I lost multiple employees. Clay.
The moment when we were like, you know what? We're moving on. Now, I found out later that if you like make up your bar fees and like do continuing legal education, you can probably get back in. So
helped us weather the storm of some of the things that are just a lot of people experience, especially in the medical world. He was instrumental in helping with the specific written business plan. He's been instrumental in hiring good quality employees, using the processes that he outlines for getting in good talent, which is extremely difficult. He helped me in securing the business loans. He helped me with web development and search engine optimization. We've been able to really keep a steady stream of clients coming in because they found us on the web. With everything that I encountered, everything that I experienced, I quickly learned it is worth every penny to have someone in your team that can walk you through and even avoid some of the pitfalls that are almost invariable in starting your own business. I'm Dr. Chad Edwards, and I own Revolution Health and Wellness Clinic.
Clay, my honor to be on your show. And thank you for all you do. I hear the ripple effects from you are good ripple effects. You know what I mean? People rave about what they learned from you. So congratulations.
And we went from expecting maybe 250,000 this year to we're at 400,000. Hi, I'm Kelsey with K&D's Woodruff Finishing, business owner at 23. So I've been working this K&D's company for about 5 years now, and we started working with Thrive not too long ago. And we went from expecting maybe 250,000 this year to we're at 400,000. That's what we're going to hit or exceed.
It wasn't as abrupt and definitive as it seemed at the moment, but at the moment it felt like, okay, we're doing this, you know. But it was helpful.
So we're pretty excited about that. It's been pretty much just listening to what they have to say. Their hiring process has just really been incredible as far as finding good quality help, and the just the accountability of meeting up with them weekly, and like such good insight, the resources that they have for specific business questions. It's all been really incredible. It's been a great experience, so I would recommend it to anybody.
What I've seen from Clay and his group at Thrive is they'll give you a simple system, and it's the simple systems are the ones that people can wrap their brain around. They're the ones that people can work with on a day-to-day basis.
Hi there, my name is Stephanie Pipkin. I am 24 years old and I own Black River Falls Cleaning Services. We opened in April of 2019 and it is now mid-June of 2020. So I wanted to talk today about the success and growth I have achieved by implementing the Proven Path with Clay Clark's team and my business coach Luke from Thrivetime. It has been insane to say the least. I started working with them in mid-February of this year, so we're about 4 months in of working together, and it has completely transformed my business in pretty much every facet. So I'm gonna check my notes here. So in 4 months, my leads have tripled. I was getting probably like 2 leads a week. Now I'm getting more in the like 10 to 15 leads a week. I have doubled my number of employees.
To have somebody else with me, you know, like I was doing it, and we were just like, we're going to start over. We're going to give this something else a shot.
How long have you two lovebirds been married, by the way, you and your husband? How many years at this point?
I'm now hitting the highest revenue weeks in the history of the company, week to week, it seems like. We went from about 6 appointments today as our highest in February to now 14 to 15 appointments a day. And hiring quality employees has become much simpler and less stressful by using their systems for hiring. I typically only get maybe 2 complaints a month, if that, and everybody shows up to work. I just have really high quality employees now, especially in something people typically consider a high turnover type of work, you know, cleaning houses, cleaning businesses. I have amazing employees now, and I get rid of the ones who are not so amazing and bring on new ones because of, you know, group interviews and interviewing every single week. It's just been great, and such I don't waste as much time on low quality candidates anymore. And your coach will hold you accountable. I mean, which I love. Again, the tough love is really great. You know, Luke's like a stern father figure, but he's also nice, but also stern when he needs to be when I'm being lazy and not doing the things that I know I need to do because I don't want to do them. So that's just great. Worth every penny. I mean, I'd pay him $1 million a month if I can, and maybe someday I'll be able to, but I would just say go for it. If it seems like a good fit, just go for it. Do what they say, even if you think it's stupid or ridiculous, just do what they say because it'll work. You know, people, when they look at my business, you know, people in my town, they think I'm lucky. They think I'm just, you know, things just happen for me. And, you know, maybe I am lucky, but it has a lot to do with hard work and
24.
24. I appreciate you guys stopping making out to go ahead and do this interview, by the way. I could just feel the romance.
And, you know, perseverance and, you know, working till you cry sometimes. That's just being an entrepreneur, which if you're a business owner, you understand that. But it's having these systems in place of, you know, of course I'm going to be successful. It's an absolute because I have all this stuff in the background happening, and I have Luke and Clay and everybody on their team working really hard to make sure that I'm a success. And I can tell that they are just so excited every single week when I'm having all these wins and things like that. They're so excited for me. So it's the best thing ever, and I would suggest to anybody to work with them. So sorry for the long-winded reply, but I just had so much to say, and I could go on for hours probably about how amazing they are. But thank you to Clay and Luke and the entire team there, everything you guys have done for me, and I am so excited to continue to work with you for years to come. Thanks so much for watching.
My saying is, if it's important to you, hire a coach. And I think that's one of the reasons people are not successful is they eat a cheeseburger instead of hiring a coach, you know what I mean? And so my coach pushes me. They're younger than me. They push harder. They're trained. And as my rich dad always said, you know, amateurs don't have a coach, but professionals always have coaches. So I've always had coaches for whatever is important. And, you know, my rich dad was one of those persons. You're on it, man. You're on it. You're on it. Everybody, listen to this guy. He knows what he's talking about. You have the macro picture.
I can feel the love there. So I want to ask you this, though. So you guys, I mean, you guys have been partners. I've heard you talk about this, that he's very supportive of you. You're very supportive of him. It's a neat story. I've been married 17 years to the same incredible lady. You've got
few people have that point of view. Clay, you're an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. And as they say in Stoic, the obstacle is the way. And so if you let these pinheads get in your way, you're in trouble.
It's beat, though. 24 years you guys have been together. As you guys were jumping into this new career together, I've heard you say, and other people say, the hardest part of becoming an author as a career is finding a literary agent that believes in you and your
Time.
work. And I've heard you brag about, I believe her name is Christy Fletcher. Can you talk to me about talk to us about the struggles of finding a literary agent that actually believes in you and somebody with the kind of character and caliber of Christy Fletcher?
Well, exactly right. And I think this is a big surprise for many people who would like to be published authors, is that really, I think the most challenging part, perhaps, at least in today's environment, is getting an agent. Because once you have an agent, your agent shepherds you through the process. Your agent has a lot of information, a lot of contacts. They have a lot of views. They have a lot of experience. They can really be your cheerleader and your guide. So you have that help. And to get an agent, you have to show that you have work that your agent thinks that he or she can successfully represent. So you also, just by that stage, have something that is in good shape. But it's very hard to get a literary agent. And what a lot of people don't understand is, like, you really don't have the option. If you want to be traditionally published, and that's what I'm talking about, like by a publishing house, you can't just send it to the publisher. You don't have that option. They will not look at something that just comes in from a person. It has to come through an agent. So it's a necessary step. It's not something where you're like, well, I don't care about having an agent. I'll just negotiate my own contract. It's like, no, they won't even look at it. Now, this is if you want to be traditionally published. Now, nowadays, lots of people self-publish, and that's becoming more and more possible. And there you really are doing it yourself. And that's one of the advantages, is you can just, when you're ready, it's Sunday at midnight, like you can start that process if you want. But having an agent is difficult because you have to get the attention of an agent.
Boost! Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce.
First, and they have, hundreds and hundreds of people setting them stuff. And you also have to show them that you can write a book that they think that will appeal to a lot of people, and that they can sell successfully. And so it is it's weird. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, they're very hard to reach. They're deliberately hard to reach because otherwise everybody would be hounding them all the time. They can be kind of hard to reach. It can be kind of hard to figure out, well, who's the right agent for someone like me? One of the things you can do is you can literally look in the acknowledgments pages of books that you feel like, if you're writing a book, it's in the spirit of another book. You can look, because people will usually thank their agents, and you can say, like, oh, well, I see that this agent is coming up over and over in books that I think my book is sort of similar to. Maybe that would be a good person to approach. If you have contacts, this is why a lot of people go to things like writers' conferences, because they hope that they're going to make connections with agents. I had a connection through college. I had like a very distant connection, but it worked out. And Christy and I were both very much starting out at the same time, so we really grew up together. And I feel incredibly fortunate because we're so well matched in terms of our interests and our tastes and our appetite for innovation. And she's really pushed me very hard and been very supportive of me doing things. Some very traditional literary agents are like, if you're not writing a book, you're wasting your time. And they wouldn't have wanted me to have a blog when I started my blog 10 years ago, or they might not have understood why I would want to have a podcast. Whereas Christy, like, she has such an appetite for that kind of thing. She loves experimentation. She loves to see risk and failure.
The show. But this show does. In a world filled with endless opportunities, why would two men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses altruistically invest?
She loves data. So she's really pushed me instead of like cautioning me to try new things, which has been great because I'm still a very traditional writer. I feel like that's my primary identity is like,
I agree.
I go to a library in my neighborhood and write for, on my laptop for 3 hours. That's my favorite thing to do. And that's the most important thing to me. But I do a lot of other things as well now.
Jack London, the famous best-selling author, this guy decorated his office with all of the rejection letters. He almost made it like his wallpaper. Do you remember how many rejection letters you received before you reconnected with your friend from college, or did you connect on the first try?
It wasn't the first try. I don't remember. There weren't that many, fortunately. It was a pretty...
Well, you're a big deal. You're a unicorn.
Naturally. No, but one person said something that was really interesting to me. I never forgot it because I thought it was the stupidest observation I'd ever heard. But now, in retrospect, I understand what she was saying. She said, this is from my book, Power, Money, Fame, Sex, The User's Guide, which was the book that I went out to get an agent with. And she said, there are too many ideas on a page. And I was like, how can there be too many ideas? Everybody should have as many ideas as they want. Like, I was patting myself on the back for having so many ideas.
So many ideas.
But now I understand what she meant is that I have a very dense style, and I have to really, it's too much. It's not, a reader, doesn't want to go through at that level. And I've had to learn how to loosen up my style, open up my style, not to throw in like every quotation that I've ever read in my whole life that I love. Like I really, so in retrospect,